For 300 cycles, the Kirati waited for extinction. Their home world, Alien Prime, once glowed like a jewel at the edge of the Orion Drift, vast oceans of liquid crystal, forests that sang when the wind passed through them, and cities grown rather than built. The Kirati were not conquerors. They were diplomats, scholars, and architects of peace. And that was precisely why the galaxy abandoned them. When the Virex Dominion arrived, the Galactic Council watched and did nothing. The Virex were an ancient war empire, biologically engineered for conquest. Their fleets blotted out stars, their soldiers bred in vats for obedience and violence. One by one, civilizations fell. Each time, the Council debated. Each time, they chose neutrality. When Alien Prime was invaded, the Council declared the Kirati system a non-strategic loss. That was the day the galaxy turned its back. A civilization left to die. The Virex did not destroy Alien Prime immediately. That was not their way. They occupied, stripping resources, enslaving millions, and turning Kirati cities into factories for war. Resistance was met with orbital strikes. Children were taken for labor. Elders were executed publicly to break morale. The Kirati sent distress calls across known space. No one answered. The Aurelian trade clans closed their borders. The Zentari theocracy called it divine will. The Council archived the pleas and moved on. For 300 cycles, the Kirati resisted alone. By the time hope became a forbidden word, their population had fallen by 60%. Their skies burned red at night. Their songs, once carried by the wind, were replaced by the thunder of Virex engines. Then, one final message was sent. Not to the Council, not to the great empires, but outward, beyond mapped space, toward a newly discovered, barely understood species. Humanity, the message that changed everything. At first, Earth almost ignored it. The transmission arrived fragmented, damaged by distance and interference. It took weeks for human linguists and AI systems to decode the meaning. When they finally did, the room went silent. It was not a request for weapons, not a demand for alliance. It was a record. 300 cycles of suffering compressed into a single message. Images of burning cities, starving civilians, executions broadcast as warnings, children hiding in ruins, scholars dying to protect libraries. The message ended with a simple line. If anyone still believes the galaxy has room for mercy, remember us. The footage went public within hours, and humanity erupted, a species that refused to look away. Across Earth, the reaction was immediate and visceral. Governments argued caution. Corporations calculated risk. Strategists warned about provoking the Virex Dominion. But the people were furious. Humans had grown up on stories of abandoned worlds, of never again, of standing against tyranny. And now, faced with real victims, real faces, they made a collective decision. Human networks flooded with a single phrase, translated into thousands of languages. We stand with you. Millions protested. Donations overwhelmed relief channels. Former soldiers volunteered. Engineers offered ships. Scientists unlocked classified technologies that had never left black projects. And then, something unprecedented happened. The United Earth Assembly, fractured and slow for decades, voted unanimously. Humanity would intervene. The fleet no one expected. The galaxy laughed at first. Humans were newcomers, barely 2 centuries into interstellar travel. Their territory was small. Their fleets modest by galactic standards. The Virex Dominion dismissed them as noise. Then the human fleet arrived. Not in hundreds, in thousands. Human ships were different, modular, unpredictable, and heavily automated. Their designs blended brute force with terrifying adaptability. Rail cannons powered by fusion reactors. Drone swarms controlled by battlefield AIS. armor that regenerated mid-combat. And behind the warships came something even more shocking. Medical vessels, evacuation carriers, mobile habitats. Humanity had not come to conquer. They had come to protect. This is humanity. The first battle over Alien Prime lasted 17 minutes. Virex fleets, used to enemies who followed predictable doctrines, found themselves overwhelmed by chaotic human tactics. Human commanders broke every established rule of galactic warfare, sacrificing formations, baiting traps, exploiting psychological warfare. Human pilots transmitted open-channel messages during combat. This is humanity. Disengage now. Any attack on civilians will be answered with extinction. The Virex did not disengage. They learned why that was a mistake. By the end of the day, the orbital blockade was shattered. For the first time in 300 cycles, the skies over Alien Prime were clear. On the surface, karate survivors watched human dropships descend, not with bombs, but with food, medics, and shields. Some karate wept. Others collapsed. Many did not believe it was real. The galaxy watches in shock. The intervention sent shockwaves across known space. The Galactic Council called emergency sessions. The same delegates who had ignored the karate now spoke of escalation and instability. Humanity's response was broadcast live. You call their suffering a non-strategic loss. We call it a moral failure. Stand aside or be remembered with them. Trade empires began quietly rerouting supplies to human fleets. Smaller species, long oppressed, started sending volunteers. For the first time, the Virex Dominion faced something it had never encountered. A coalition fueled not by fear, but by solidarity. The turning of the war. Over the next year, human-led forces liberated system after system. The Virex, stretched thin and unused, a resistance that adapted, began losing territory. Their psychological dominance cracked when humans broadcast rescued civilians thanking them, showing the galaxy that resistance was possible. The Kirati, once broken, rose again. With human support, they rebuilt defenses, trained new leaders, and reclaimed their culture. Their songs returned to the forests of Alien Prime, this time joined by human voices who had learned the melodies. When the final Virex stronghold fell, the galaxy held its breath. Humanity did not seize territory. They did not demand tribute. They did not replace one empire with another. They left. What the galaxy learned that day. In the aftermath, historians struggle to define what had changed. It wasn't just a defeat of the Virex Dominion. It was a precedent. For the first time, the galaxy understood something fundamental about humans. They were not the strongest. They were not the oldest. They were not the most advanced. But when humanity decided that something was wrong, they would cross stars to make it right. The Kirati erected a monument on Alien Prime, not to humanity's weapons, but to their message. Carved in crystal, visible from orbit, were words translated into every known language. We were forsaken by the galaxy, and then humanity answered. And from that day forward, no distress call went unanswered again.